Well, Andrew, now we've had a few days to sort of digest this, and I know you're probably choking on it at the moment. But what's your thoughts 5 days later?
I guess, yeah, look, it's been a huge farmer response. Really upset. I'm yet to meet someone that's in favour of this proposition, and it's all across the spectrum. And generally, yeah, and it's good to see, a lot of people in town as well, also quite concerned by it. I think, it's been bubbling away for quite a while now, but with that modelling in the government report that's saying, 20% of sheep and beef farms are gone, that sort of brought it home to everyone that actually, there is a cost to all this, and it's a human cost as well as a financial cost. And I think that's sort of woken everyone up to what we're talking about, quite frankly.
Nathan Penny from Westpac, agri-economist there, was saying there's no discussion on the food security issue. I mean, the fact that we now will potentially be producing 20% less meat through sheep and beef, etc. I mean, that's a food security issue, I would have thought, with the UN, is it not?
Yeah, yeah. And at the same time as we're having, a real challenge globally with food security and food production. Prices are going up around the board. I've talked to you a number of times about the challenges they're facing in Europe with, the energy prices, which are having an impact on farm. And it's, there is a real challenge globally around food production right now. And so, people that think that we can just live in isolation and what we do doesn't impact the world, sorry, it's all interconnected. And, if we make silly decisions here that are based purely on some sort of, domestic target without thinking about how it plays out in the wider global scheme, then, there are going to be unintended consequences. And I think that's what, we're going to see. Yeah, the UN's got, I think it's 13, no, maybe it's 17 sustainable development goals. And, one of them's climate action, but also zero hunger. That's a action they've got as well. So, you've got to look at this whole thing holistically and try and achieve smart outcomes. And, the Paris Accord was, what it said was, we need to reduce emissions whilst maintaining food production. And that really goes home to the fact that, we've got to farm better, not less. But all of this, what we're seeing at the moment is just a drive to farm less and pretending it's not going to have an impact.
Well, Andrew, the Australian Agricultural Minister Murray Watt has said they're going to sign up to the global pledge to cut methane emissions by 30% by 2030. They say they're different to New Zealand, and there's no way they're going to be charging any extra taxes on their farmers. Why are they different?
Yeah. So there was I think it was signed at last year's COP, where they're going to, the target is to reduce methane emissions globally by 30%. And, when it was reported here, just everyone assumed that means 30% reduction from agriculture. But actually, the target they've got is all the leaky oil wells and gas fields. That's where a huge chunk of the methane emissions globally are coming from. And by simply, it's a low cost solution to fix those leaks. And that prevents a lot of methane going into the atmosphere. The second solution they had in that document, or some of the documents associated with it, was reducing the loss of methane from refuge plants, so rubbish tips. So being able to capture it and store it there. And then, yeah, they did have a smaller action resulting around agriculture, where they thought better manure management could deliver some good global gains. And by manure management, they're talking about your sort of indoor farming, where they're capturing a whole heap of manure for a very long time and holding it until they can spread it out in the fields. Whereas here in New Zealand, the cows are already out in the fields, they're already doing it. We're not capturing large quantities like in the northern hemisphere. So yeah, I mean, some people look at that accord and go, oh, this is bad for agriculture, but actually it's not too bad because it sets out in a clear way how we can make these reductions and then not focused on agriculture, which often gets left out of a lot of the reporting.
The other question is the strategy now. We've got 5.5 weeks, I guess, of the consultation period. What's on the agenda for you?
For us, it's been getting feedback from members firstly, and that's coming through pretty loud and clear. I think where this whole thing has sort of crystallized in my mind is that the reality is we've got to if we're trying to achieve the targets, which is what the government's been hell bent on, it's going to come at a cost of agriculture. And we've always had an issue with the targets, but we've sort of parked it to try and come up with a mechanism that might be useful and then try and talk about the targets again. But quite frankly, I'm of the opinion now that we need to just say, no, we're not going to talk about mechanisms until we talk about the targets and get targets that are based on, good science. What is required from New Zealand agriculture to ensure that we don't provide any more additional warming? And that number isn't the number they plucked out of the report, which they're using as targets. It's a completely different number. So for us, that's where the first point that needs to be sorted.